They said a warrior's strength came from his sword. They were wrong. Steel only reflects the hand that holds it, the muscle that swings it, the rage that commands it. But the mind is the silent architect of every strike, every retreat, every destiny altered by a single breath held at the right moment. In the mountains of Edo, there lived a young swordsman named Ren. Quick, angry, eager to prove himself, he carried more battles inside his chest than the world had ever demanded of him. Every insult felt like an attack. Every challenge, a war only he could see. He was fighting ghosts no one else recognized. Yet the master refused to let him even touch a sword. Not yet. For a man who fears his own thoughts, the master said, every enemy becomes a mirror. Ren believed discipline was force. The master showed him discipline was silence. Days became weeks. The training changed nothing on the surface, yet everything beneath it. The habit they drilled into him was painfully simple. Observe your mind before you move your body. To the samurai, this wasn't meditation, it was survival. The warrior who reacts is owned by the enemy, but the warrior who observes commands the battlefield. Ren could not yet see how this one habit would turn him from a reckless boy into a presence even seasoned warriors feared. And tonight, you will walk the same hidden path with him, breath by breath. If your spirit resonates with these words, stay. There is more waiting in the silence ahead. The first lessons felt like punishment. Ren wanted to move, to swing, to prove that he belonged among warriors, yet the master demanded stillness. He was told to sit beneath the cedar trees, listening to the wind move through branches the way thoughts pass through awareness, present but not permanent. His anger boiled beneath the surface, unspoken, locked like a drawer no one would open. Whenever his mind erupted with imagined battles, the master would whisper, "Notice the strike before it appears." Ren didn't understand. He wasn't striking anything. But slowly, he began to notice something terrifying. Most violence started long before hands or swords ever moved. He was fighting something invisible, and it was inside him. The master watched him like one studies a candle about to burn out, silent, patient, knowing the flame needed its own time to understand fire. Ren thought discipline meant pushing harder, forcing stillness, defeating emotion. But each day revealed something darker. His rush to act was not courage. It was fear disguised as strength. Even modern psychology calls this reflex the amygdala command, the ancient brain reacting before the conscious mind can choose. The samurai discovered this centuries before science named it. One evening, the master traced a thin red thread across the dirt, a line dividing calm from chaos. Every conflict, he said softly, begins here. Ren stared at the thread, realizing it wasn't on the ground at all. It was inside his chest. One step over it, and he became someone else. Someone uncontrolled. And in that moment, a frightening question took root. If the battle begins within, what enemy has already won? Ren hated silence more than defeat. In silence, he could hear the noise inside himself, rage, doubt, that invisible tremor of insecurity he tried to hide beneath strength. When he moved, he felt powerful. When he sat still, he felt exposed, like the cracked wooden prayer tablet hanging forgotten in the shrine, its faded writing revealing every storm it had endured. Silence felt like weakness, but the master would not let him escape it. He asked Ren to wait before speaking, to breathe before reacting, to witness the mind before obeying it. Ren didn't understand why. Yet every time he tried to fill the silence with words, the master turned away, as if the noise itself was proof that Ren was not yet a warrior, only a boy afraid of what silence might reveal. One dusk, the master placed two objects on the wooden floor, a closed fan and a sharpened blade. "Which is stronger?" he asked. Ren chose the blade instantly. With a small, nearly disappointed breath, the master unfolded the fan, its motion barely audible. Yet a gust of wind carried dust across the surface, blinding Ren for a heartbeat. Strength, the master whispered, is not always loud. Modern neuropsychology calls this the prefrontal pause, the moment your logical mind steps between impulse and action. But the samurai understood centuries earlier. Silence is calculation disguised as calm. Through quiet, a warrior sees what another man exposes, without exposing himself. Ren began to hear things he never heard before, the hesitation in a voice, the tremor of doubt, the intention beneath a glance. And without realizing it, silence was slowly sharpening him into something far more dangerous than noise. Ren thought enemies lived outside the temple. Bandits, rival schools, wandering swordsmen hungry for blood. But the master pointed to Ren's chest instead, tapping lightly as if knocking on a locked drawer. "The one who destroys you," he said, "already speaks your voice." Ren felt insulted, even angry, but something inside him tightened, like a burned ledger hiding evidence no one wanted to read. The master ordered him to sit beneath the cold waterfall, letting the water strike his shoulders like small, relentless knives. "Listen," he said, "but not to the water." Hours passed. Beneath the roar, Ren heard something else, fear whispering its reasons. "You're not enough. What if you're weak? What if they discover who you really are?" Silent, poisonous, familiar. Ren tried to push the thoughts away, but the master warned him. A warrior does not silence his enemy. He studies him. Modern psychology calls this cognitive shadow work, the confrontation with unconscious beliefs that shape identity without permission. But the samurai practiced this centuries before any textbook existed. Ren remembered a night from childhood, his father smashing a cracked lantern against the wall, yelling about dishonor. That memory, buried like a broken blade beneath years of training, suddenly surfaced, glowing hot with meaning. His anger wasn't born in the present. It was inherited. The master nodded slowly, as if he had seen this truth unfolding long before Ren ever arrived. "Most men spend their lives fighting shadows on the ground," he said. "Only a few dare turn toward the darkness behind them." A chill trembled through Ren's spine, and the temple lamps flickered, as if something unseen had just entered the room. Something changed inside Ren after the waterfall. His movements slowed, not because he lacked strength, but because every action now passed through a silent gate within him. The master began sparring with seniors while Ren simply watched, noticing things he had never seen. Shoulders tightening before a strike, eyes narrowing half a second before the foot moved. Tiny hesitations disguised as confidence. Presence became a strange new weapon. Ren could sense intention before steel left its sheath. He no longer chased attacks. He anticipated them. Even modern neuroscience calls this predictive processing, the brain reading signals before the conscious mind understands their meaning. But the samurai discovered this through experience. Power is loud, presence is invisible, until the moment it decides to reveal itself. And Ren was beginning to feel something far more dangerous than skill awakening beneath his silence. The master tested him in subtle ways. A fallen leaf drifting near the temple gate, a candle extinguished without warning, a question asked with no sound. Each was a doorway to perception. Ren started responding to movements he hadn't yet seen. He would turn moments before the wind shifted, step back before the master moved forward, breathe in precisely when another exhaled. One evening, the master dropped a single rice grain onto a wooden tray. The sound was almost nothing, yet Ren heard it. "Presence," the master said, "is the art of sensing reality before your ego invents a story about it." The world felt slower now, not because it changed, but because Ren finally stopped rushing. For the first time, he realized mastery wasn't about controlling others, but allowing reality to reveal itself before acting. Yet, at the edge of that realization, a quiet fear lingered. What would this new awareness show him next? When the master finally placed a sword in Ren's hands, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a responsibility he was afraid to touch. The blade reflected more than his face. It reflected the boy he no longer was, and the shadows of the man he had yet to become. Ren expected the master to test him with combat, but instead he led him to the entrance of the village, where angry voices argued over a land dispute, fists clenched, ready to erupt. "Stand here," the master said. "Do nothing." Ren's heartbeat thudded like war drums. But he remembered the silence, the thread in the dirt, the waterfall whispering truths he once refused to hear. He breathed, listened, observed. The voices quieted, not because he spoke, but because presence itself demanded silence. The villagers looked into his eyes and saw something unsettling. Not anger, not intimidation, but an unmoving calm that exposed their own violence without Ren needing to name it. Every man instinctively lowered his voice. No one dared swing a fist. And Ren understood what the master meant. You don't end conflict by overpowering others. You end it by removing the fire that feeds their aggression. Psychologists today call this emotional contagion, the nervous system mirroring another's state, absorbing calm the same way it absorbs rage. The samurai mastered this before any laboratory existed. Presence rewires the room long before words intervene. Ren didn't strike once. He didn't have to. The master bowed, not to Ren's blade, but to the silence he finally embodied. And somewhere deep within that quiet, Ren realized his greatest enemy had never been another man at all, but the version of himself who once believed fighting meant strength. And in that realization, a new path opened, one most warriors never dare walk.